Hey everybody, it's Mike from Here the Watchmen, and we're here again today. It's Friday and January 10th, up here in the mountains of Idaho. It was a blistering 3 degrees this morning when I came to the office, and my guest today was kind enough to tell me that where he is, it's 65, and I guess I don't know. I like where I live. I'll put up with it for the winter, and then in the spring and the summer and the fall, it's just God's country. But today, joining me is none other than Coach Dave Daubenmire. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Mike. And I'm not bragging about our 65-degree weather because this is Ohio and we get cold here as well. It's just amazing how warm it has been here, and going to go to 70s, what I understand, even tomorrow. And usually when we hit January, we're like you, man. We hunker down and the creek freezes over and we settle in for about 6 weeks and fight our way through it. But
Yeah.
we've had a very, very slow winter here.
There you go, folks. Global warming has hit Ohio, and it
It's in
could
Buckeye Lake, Ohio. Yes, sir.
Well, Coach, you're going to be at Hear the Watchman in Dallas, Texas, and that is the Remnant Warrior Conference, folks. You want to get out there and be a part of this. It's a different type of Hear the Watchman that we've ever done. We are going to teach you. Our speakers are going to teach on how, or train on how you can get through these trying times that we're coming to. Go to www.hearthewatchman.com. You can get all the details and get your ticket there. Use the promo code COACH20. Save yourself $20 off the purchase of your general admission ticket. So, Coach, I want to jump right into it today. So much is happening in the world right now. I was reading the headlines today, and we have all this stuff going on. The things going on in the Middle East. We have just stuff going on here in America. Craziness, socialism. I saw an article that said that in Venezuela, the people are so depressed and medicated because of socialism. And we see all this stuff going on. And the Bible tells us that Christ will appear to deal with the unchristlike. And we're not date setters, but listen, if you look around at what's going on right now, if you can't see the unchristlike in front of you, I don't know what to tell you. What do you think is going on, Dave? And what do we need to do from a biblical perspective to get through what we're facing?
Well, Mike, I'm a little bit different than probably a lot of people that come to hear the Watchmen, and I'm honored. This is how many times you had these, Mike? How many in Texas? 5?
Five.
Whatever.
This is the 5th year.
Yeah, I'm honored to have been to every one of them, and every time I come, I'm really, really encouraged by the number of people out there who really, really are seeking the truth and trying to figure out what's going on. And I think it would be safe to say that I'm a little bit of an outcast in that I always say, I don't care where we are, we got to fight. Mm-hmm. I don't care where we are on this prophetic timetable. I don't care. You look at the stars, you look at the moon, you look at whatever you want to. We're heading somewhere. And as old Rod Serling always said, look, there's a Twilight Zone signpost up ahead. Next stop, the Twilight Zone. So I know we're going somewhere, Mike. I know we're going somewhere. But I'm a little bit unique in that all the time that I've been in this, I've been crying for people, get involved, get moving, get off your butt, quit studying the stars. It's merely a sign. Let's go do something. And I think that we are starting to see as we move into 2020 here with an urgency that something is happening, Mike. Something is going on. And I've been working as hard as I can for the last 15, 20 years to try to waken, equip, and mobilize people to get engaged in this game. And it's like watching an old football game. Mike, we're in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe not the fourth quarter of end times. Maybe I don't know, but we are in the fourth quarter of something, and it involves what's going on here in the good old U.S. of A.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. My famous line is get off your eschatology and get out there and do something.
Yes, sir.
You just look at what's going on. I happen to be a pan-tribber, which just basically means I want to keep serving Jesus, and however it works out, that's the way it works out.
All pans out in the end. That's right.
Yeah, not up to me, right? I mean, I don't think Jesus is going to call me up and say, "Hey, Mike, what do you think? Is this the right time?" That's not going to happen. But we look at everything developing. You know, look, I got to tell you, Coach, I had a conversation with a young kid the other day, a college kid, and we got to talking, and he said, "Well, the problem with America is capitalism." And he said that, that's the fundamental problem, and that we need to move to a more socialist government. The Constitution is out of date and needs to be rewritten. And I said, where did you come up with this stuff? And he said, well, this is what we study in school. And I said, well, do you realize that the only reason you can study that and your professors can throw that garbage out at you is because of the Constitution? And he said, well, yeah, but there's other parts of it that need to be, reworked. And this is what's happening to our youth. And, it's like, take a clue from what's going on in Venezuela, folks. And of course, the answer is always in God. And your protection is being close to God. But that doesn't mean you can just hang out. I mean, you have to get out there and do something. So what is it when you talk about the fight? To you, what is the fight?
Well, there's only two teams in this fight. We're told that in Genesis 6, that seed of the serpent, I'm sorry, Genesis 4, I believe it is, that he would put enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And there would be an eternal struggle between those two. Mike, let me make this really, really simple. There's only two teams. I mean, we can call ourselves a lot of different names. We can call ourselves Republicans, conservatives, Democrats, liberals, progressives. You pick whatever name you want to, but there are, in fact, only two teams. God has a team, and the devil has a team. And that is what's playing out, manifesting in front of us. And to me, the easiest thing to use to gauge where we're heading is how little truth matters anymore, Mike. Now, I think about Oprah, and Oprah was the one who I've seen on several of her shows where she talks about pursuing your truth. Well, Mike, there's no such thing as individual truth. There is one truth. It comes, by the way, in the person of Jesus Christ. And the scriptures tell us that you shall know the truth, and the truth, if you know it, will set you free. But Mike, I get into arguments all the time with, again, call them progressives, call them whatever you want to. And they have really adopted the idea that there is no one eternal, unchangeable truth. That's the culture and the society that we live in. And talking about the young guy that you were talking to, capitalism, yada, yada, yada. It's all a bunch of untruths. Wasn't it Satan when he stood before Adam and he said to Eve, did God really say? Is that really what he meant? And that's been the battle the whole time. It has not changed. The lies have changed. The presentation of the lies have changed. But Mike, if you're anything like me, I sit here and I watch what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I listen to some of the things that people say, and my response is this. How can they possibly believe that?
Yeah, well,
but that's it, though, isn't it?
It is. And let's look at this for a second. So the Democrats, they want to limit the president's war powers. They have the impeachment garbage and all that stuff. Well, okay. So Obama takes credit for taking out Osama bin Laden, a terrorist, and he's a hero. Trump takes out this general who's just an evil guy, who even the people in Iran thought he was an evil guy. And now Trump's listed as like a war criminal. Mm-hmm. Then let's take a look at the Democrats sent pallets of money to Iran.
Funded their weapons, didn't they?
Yeah, and now they're all up in arms. Now, how do you believe that? If that isn't of Satan, I don't know what is. But I mean, we're in this fight, and you and I are front line on it constantly. And the thing that amazes me sometimes is I think, has morality left America? Because we have this, now let's see, there's gay, there's transgender, now there's pan-gender, which just, I guess it means you'll go any which way you want to. All of this stuff, and boys trying to determine whether a man or if they're a woman. It's like, it's not that hard to figure out. Go take a shower.
Mike, I use this illustration all the time. Sometimes I get the chance to speak to high school kids, and that topic comes up, and the topic of Bruce Jenner comes up. And I said, let me ask you something. How do we know that's King Tut? You all heard of King Tut, haven't you? How do we know that's King Tut? And they think for a minute because they don't really know. I said, maybe it's Queen Tut, right? It could be Princess Tut. How do we know that King Tut was a man? In fact, if you could go in there and look at King Tut's body, I believe it's mummified, and maybe the organs aren't even there anymore. So really, how do we know who he is? And every once in a while, some smart child who hasn't been too well programmed will say, DNA? Duh. Duh. But you would be surprised, Mike, when you go into that classroom, how many of those kids do not see a problem with calling Bruce Jenner Caitlyn. I said, Caitlyn Jenner's King Tut.
Yeah.
Right? 1,000 years from now, Caitlyn will be Bruce. Ain't no changing it. Yeah. It's the DNA, right?
Go look at the past tapes. Go look at the Olympic tapes. It's a he.
I mean, come on.
And then I see finally, I forget which state it is, but has passed a law that anybody competing in like high school sports and all that has to compete based upon their birth certificate and how they were identified on their birth certificate as a male or female. Because you look at some of these things, you've got men competing in women's wrestling. Come on. I mean, it's just a joke. But I guess, where has morality gone? Where has it gone?
Well, Paul but I believe it's Thessalonians said that because we've rejected the truth, that the Lord himself would send a strong delusion that we would believe a lie. And there's no other excuse than that this is the judgment of God. In fact, Romans, you were mentioning about the judgment of God and God coming and dealing with the wicked. It says in Romans 1 that the wrath of God is revealed against all unrighteousness, meaning, Mike, that judgment's already occurring. And the judgment is already occurring that what? We don't recognize men as men. We don't recognize morality as morality. This is not something that is coming. It is a sign of the judgment of God upon a people. So when you read down through Romans 1 and you read about that men being lovers of their own selves and all that, that is all judgment of God that is falling upon America. So sadly, one of the things that becomes so dangerous for those of us who serve the King of Kings, we're told in the scriptures that the rain falls on the just and the unjust, right? Mike, up there where you live and the weather's cold and the snow's falling, wouldn't it be nice if you were a Christian and those snowflakes just fell on everybody else? Your driveway remained clear and all that? But that's not the way it works.
No.
The rain falls on the just and the unjust. So we are currently under judgment of God, and part of it has to do with the fact that we don't even recognize or accept truth anymore. And therein is where the battle lies.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what we've done. Okay, I mean, people, you need to wake up to this. The streets of America are filled with the blood of babies that we've murdered. Okay, they're filled with it. We have drug addiction, this new stuff, fentanyl, killing thousands of people, thousands. And you just look at all of this stuff that's going on, and you have to sit back and you wonder, Lord, save us. Well, he will save us, but we have to do the work. Now, Dave, you're doing a lot of work. Talk to us a little bit about some of the work you're doing.
Well, we look for where the devil's poking up his head, and we just do a whack-a-mole. If it's at the abortion clinic, if it's at libraries where the the freaks are reading to our children. We go stand and we represent the Lord right where these things are going on. I'm getting ready to take a group of guys down to Virginia here on the 20th for the whole thing with the gun issue, because I think that this is at the very heart of it, Mike, this is a Christian issue. But you'd be shocked at how many Christians you run into who are anti-guns. And for the life of me, brother, I cannot put that one together. And they say, well, the Lord's going to protect you and all that. I said, well, yeah, but what about my wife? It's one thing if I lay down my life, if I don't want to fight back.
My wife. My
what
kids.
about my wife and my grandkids,
yeah,
right? You mean I can have a gun and I can protect my wife and grandkids? I think maybe the Lord would want me to do that. In fact, Jesus said, go sell your coat and get a sword. Right? Yeah. So again, it's some of that same confusion that's going on. I watched people, when that guy down in Texas in that church showed up to shoot those people, and one old boy in the back stands up and with one shot pops him in the head. How many lives were saved? Yet, Mike, you still see people on the internet who think that was wrong.
I know
that guy was sent up. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
So
it is.
we're going to go down there to Virginia because we think if how about this one, Mike? The Second Amendment specifically mentions guns, the right of the people to keep and bear arms.
Right.
Shall not be infringed. Right.
Right.
Can't infringe with it. Yet the Constitution nowhere mentions the right of a woman to murder her baby. Nowhere is it mentioned.
Right.
And yet the right of a woman to murder her baby is sacrosanct and can't be dealt with, while a clearly spelled out God-given right can be messed with.
Yeah.
That's how upset.
That's what the Second Amendment was put into place, so that the citizens could arm themselves against a tyrannical government, basically, and to protect themselves. And now here we have in Virginia the government trying to take the guns away. I try to tell people the story where I live. Okay, very small town in the mountains of Idaho, been here forever. There's still buildings here from the 1800s, and everybody up here carries a gun. You go to the grocery store, you'll see guys coming in off the ranches with guns on their belt. It's just not a big deal. Opening day of hunting season up here, you go by the high school, and all the pickup trucks of the kids have their deer rifles on the racks. No big deal, because here a gun is a tool. It's something you use to protect your livestock, to go hunting, to do what you need to do. Consequently, there has not been a shooting in this town since 1900, and that was behind a bar over a woman, and so I mean, it's a mindset, it's a mindset. Now, would we use those guns to protect our home and our family? Damn right we would, in a second. But right. The fact that everybody's armed up here, nobody messes with anybody, and so, but you see this going on where they're trying to take away the guns, and then that's just where it starts. Hitler took everybody's guns away. How did that work out?
And Mike, is the right to possess and keep a gun, is that a God-given right or not? Because the Declaration of Independence says we've been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And if the right to self-defense is a God-given, God-granted, unalienable right, does the government have the right to be able to restrict it? In fact, the amendment says, shall not be infringed. It actually says this, Mike, a well-regulated group of people with guns being necessary for the security of a free state, right?
Yeah, and so, I'm not saying, with this example I'm going to give you, Coach, I'm not saying that drugs should be legalized, but you take away guns. You go into Virginia, and they take all the guns away. Does anyone in their right mind think that that's going to stop the bad guys from getting guns any more so than like the heroin dealer getting heroin? They don't care about the law. They don't care. We're
already breaking it.
Yeah, so now you got a bunch of bad guys out there with guns and no good guys with guns. And all it takes to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a bigger gun.
So Mike, so here's where we are. You say, well, Coach, why are you going to go down there and stand against that? Because listen, folks, if we capitulate in Virginia and they win this issue in Virginia, what's next? New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. Can you run down the list with it? And what will happen, Mike, 10 years from now, we'll say, daggone, we should have stood up right at the beginning if we'd have just stopped that. Right? Well, that's where we are, right? That's where we are. And so we want to go down there, and guns is not one of my big issues, but guns is an issue. And gun is something that I think Christians, Americans unify over. I've often said, Mike, that the real pushback against the overreaching arm of government would come not from the church, but from the NASCAR crowd. That's what I always called them.
Yeah.
Those good old boys down there who had God tattooed on their arm and hadn't been to church in 6 years. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. But they understood God, guns. They understood all of it. Yeah. And I said, that's where that pushback is going to come from. And I really think that's the genesis of what we're beginning to see.
Well, there's that. I have a plaque that someone gave me, a little sign that hangs in our house, and it said, America was built on God, guns, and guts. And it's like, look, we can't be a bunch of pansies anymore. If you're a Christian, you have to stand up. You have to not be afraid to let people know, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in the Ten Commandments. I also stand for the Constitution, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect that, and so it's wonderful that you're going down there and doing that. And men need to pull together with one another. You and I are going out to a camp with Jamie Weldon that's putting on. It's just men. And we're going to go out there. Sure, we'll have some fun. But we're going to talk men to men about issues in the Bible and the Scripture and come together. Because, Satan works overtime to divide us all. I mean, that's his method. He'll just divide us all up, and then he'll get us all fighting with one another. Like you and I see within the remnant body of some of us that are, whatever you want to call them, quasi-leaders within the remnant body. And then one pastor will say something bad about another pastor, and then, oh my gosh, it just
amazing.
And that's Satan. That's what that is, I mean, if I have a problem with Coach Dave Daubenmire, I'm going to call him up and say, Coach, I have a problem with this, and we'll talk it through. We will walk away either problem resolved, or we'll walk away as brothers in Christ. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like that's the way it should be. It really is.
So Mike, coming into your Remnant Warrior Conference, I asked people this: King David, the little shepherd boy, right? The one who slew the giant, the one who took down the lion and the bear with his bare hands, the one who God said was a man after his own heart. One of his cries was, Lord, teach my hands to war and my fingers to fight. And I think we as Christians, Mike, we need to sit down and say, Lord, the heck you talking about, Willis? Right? Because that seems so unchristian, doesn't it, Mike? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it? But there is a physical element to this thing we call life. There's a physical element to this spiritual war that we are all engaged in. And David, the guy after God's own heart, said, Lord, teach me how to do this. My fingers, he went to the very specific part of our fingers. Teach me how to war in a way that brings glory and honor to you. Yeah. And I think that in the times that we're coming into, buddy, we have to face up to that unfortunately, as much as we don't like it, we're going to have to step up to the plate, tighten our belt, and earn our meal money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's where we've gone. I mean, in the 1800s, right, you'd see a guy with a beard would say to someone else, he'd say, I'm going to go kill that bear with my bare hands. Mm. Now, the under 30 crowd here with beards is like, is that hand lotion organic? I mean, and it's like they're so focused on their skinny jeans and all that stuff. But you know what? Largely because we didn't fight. That's the result of what we have now. Now, Coach and I are not advocating you walk down the street today and get in a fist fight with someone over a theological issue or something like that. We're saying stand up and let your voice be heard.
So when the lion comes to devour my family, Mike, am I going to kill the lion or pray for him?
I'm pretty sure you're going to kill it, but you might want to ask it if it has any organic lotion that you could get from it.
There you go, right? It's a mentality. Sometimes I say we as Christians, we don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah, no, we don't.
We really don't get
it. We don't. And it's sad to see the state. You look at the church, okay, the brick and mortar church, and you and I talked about this off air. People come in and they say, you know what? Pastor, I committed adultery. And the pastor says, oh, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just say you're sorry and God loves you. Mm-hmm. No, it's not the way it works. Or they come in and they say, I've been married for 20 years, but I've decided that I'm gay. Oh, don't worry about it. God loves us all. No.
That's right. That's
no.
Where we are.
It's not the way it works, you know. I mean, the Bible is a perfect blueprint on life. It's not meant, you don't look at the Ten Commandments and you look at it says like, thou shalt not steal. Doesn't mean that, thou can steal just a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that. It's very clear, and I think we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. We need to stop, especially the remnant body. Quit fighting amongst yourselves. Get out there and do the fight like Coach is doing. Well, Coach, listen, it's been great talking to you this morning. So looking forward to seeing you in Dallas. And again, folks, don't forget, hearthewatchman.com. Go there, check it out. You don't want to miss this one. This is different than any conference we've ever done. We're limiting it to 350 people so we can get some real one-on-one interaction between the attendees and between the people who are going to be training. So again, Coach, thank you so much.
Great fellowship, Mike. I look so forward. It's always the best part of those conferences is the people I get to meet and look them in the eye and shake their hand and encourage them to stand up and fight, because we're in a battle of isolation. Many of us who understand what's going on don't have anybody around us who gets it. Yes. You get to Dallas and you'll run into some people who get it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Watchman's Report. As I always say, and Coach would agree with this, there's absolutely nothing that you can't do with Jesus in your heart, except nothing at all. Come on, get out there, make a difference in the world. And we'll see you next time here on the Watchman's Report.